Okay, my name is Gloria and I am interviewing Anthony Bradley. Anthony, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Anthony Bradley. I work with UC San Diego Athletics. Been here for about 3 years now, and I actually fundraise for the athletics department.
Okay, nice. I'll be starting the interview. First question is, in your opinion, what is a non-traditional student identity?
My opinion, non-traditional student identity, being in Southern California, I think there's, me being African American, there's different cultures throughout San Diego, and majority Caucasian or white American. So a lot of those families, in just from personal or visual, I've seen the tradition of those families continue their college educations within their family. I would be a non-traditional college graduate because I'm a first generation college student. So I kind of take that example along with some of my other colleagues that I work with, or other students that I've encountered, and I kind of compare that as a non-traditional student.
That's interesting. That's cool. It's cool to hear like other people's perspective and what they think it is. I mean, there's no real right definition, but I guess like the way that I'm using it would be like a traditional student would be someone who would go to college right after high school and finish within the 4 to 5 years with no breaks, and then get a job after or go to grad school after. And so a non-traditional student, in my terms, would be like someone who didn't go that route, or like came back after a break, or decided to come back when they're like 25 or later on, and didn't go that 4-year route as a traditional student. I don't know if that changes things.
And it doesn't really change things,
okay.
But that's my journey. I started a junior college when I was 20, almost going on 21, and then I was a little older and I actually played basketball, so I was one of the oldest on the team. And then once I transferred to San Diego State, I ended up being one of the older students in my program. So you're actually right. I mean, that's another example, and that's how I looked at it. But that was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about it. So
perfect. And you kind of answered partially the second question I'm going to ask you. So the second question was, where did you college, and did you finish all 4 years, or did you transfer?
So my first, I went to Miramar College here in San Diego, played basketball for 2 years, looking to transfer and continue my collegiate career, but due to injuries, I just ended up transferring to San Diego State, graduated in hospitality, recreation, and tourism. And then I'm currently, I still have a semester left. I'm in a master's program at Concordia University, Irvine. It's their athletics administration program. So just have one more course to finish, and then I'll be completed.
Nice. Cool. Okay. Second question, or third question. If you could go back in time, what would be one thing you would change about your college experience, or what would you do differently?
I really don't like regretting any decisions that I make, but if I had to do it all over, I had the opportunity to go to a 4-year, and I think I would have attended a 4-year institution regardless of the school, just because the resources versus, from a community college to a 4-year, definitely it outweighs the resources. Just kind of the community colleges are, like we were talking about earlier, people coming back to going to school, different ages, different demographics, and I think going to a 4-year, you kind of are lumped with the students that are, I guess we want to say the traditional students, right? With traditional students that are on the same path, looking for the same resources, and also just kind of similar in age. So I think that's one thing. And also traveling, being able to travel as a student, I think I never studied abroad, which I wish I would have had the opportunity to hear the stories of people traveling and studying abroad, and that's one thing I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, I wish I could have done that too.
Yeah.
So you kind of tied in with another question I had. So like, would you go the non-traditional way, or would you try to finish in 4 years? But you kind of basically said that you wish that you went the 4-year route instead.
Yes.
So you wish you went the traditional way.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Also, we're gonna take another trip down memory lane. Thinking back when you were a San Diego State college student, what would you say like was your typical day in your life as a student?
And this is where I wish, I would have went straight to a 4-year, because I was a I was a transfer student, so all of my courses were major courses, and so knowing that I had 2 years left, at the moment, I had the plan on playing collegiately and being on scholarship. At that time, I wasn't on scholarship, so I had to take out a few loans just to kind of take care of myself and pay my rent, and then also pay my school. But then I also had to work. So normally a typical day for me is, I try to pack all my classes in 1 or 2 days, and then the rest of the days I would work, just so I can buy my time on the weekends. So I didn't have to work on the weekends, but it would normally be just a workout in the morning, class, from 9 to maybe 5, and then, study in the evening, and then the next day just prepare for work. If I had, I would work an 8-hour shift. I never really had a part-time. All my shifts would be 8 hours. So that was just a typical day for me as a student.
Nice. Okay. From your memory also, when you attended San Diego State, do you think from what you could remember seeing a lot of non-traditional students, or it's kind of hard to recognize one, but from your memory, would you say that there was a good amount of non-traditional students at San Diego State, or even at Miramar?
Miramar was definitely the non-traditional school. It was actually a new campus. I mean, when I was there, it was strictly bungalows, no classroom, no actual classrooms. There were maybe a few, but they were shared with Police Academy that was right next to the school. So it was definitely a non-traditional traditional school, because that whole San Diego Community College District, besides Mesa College, has a different atmosphere.
I actually went to Mesa for a little bit too. Yeah. So.
And Mesa has, that looks more like a college setting, because they have a lot more programs. They have a lot more certificate programs, and just a lot more courses there in general, just because it's central San Diego, and just for how the campus is set up, it's enough for a larger student population there.
What would you say about for San Diego State?
San Diego State, it's hard because I knew so many athletes, right? I would say that's the tradition, right? Traditional, your plan is during high school to play college ball, whatever it is, and then go to a 4-year institution. But for me to say for the people in my program, hospitality and tourism, yes, it seemed traditional.
More traditional?
More traditional.
Okay. Was it a big contrast from transferring from Miramar to SDSU, or?
Yes, most definitely. It was like night and day going from, so that's why when I talk about I wish I would have attended a 4-year, we didn't really have that kind of freshman welcome at a community college versus, I have family now, younger family now that's attending college, and you see what they're experiencing as freshmen going into a 4-year. I didn't have that, so it was actually feeling like once I transferred to San Diego State, it was really just focusing on my major, and then trying to plan my career right in the next 2 years and what I'm going to do after that. So a little less time.
Nice. Okay. I don't know if you might have answered this, but what would you say was like your biggest challenge as a college student?
The biggest challenge, I think, really was just being a college student. I was so used to being an athlete where when you're an athlete, and let's just be honest, there's so many resources when you're competing. That time is set aside. Time is set aside to kind of help you excel academically. Really just study groups, study sessions, or and I had to balance that time of just working, almost full time, and then also, preparing, doing my major courses, which required a lot of projects, especially in hospitality and tourism. So really traveling throughout Southern California to work on, different projects with group projects, and visiting hotels and visiting, any type of tourism facility. It was hard to kind of make all that time and then also just have a social life on the side. And I didn't really feel like a college student. I felt like it was an internship, and for the next 2 years, and now I have to figure out my plan after that, versus really finding out, and having the time to figure out what San Diego State had to offer.
Yeah, that must have been challenging, being an athlete and also working full time and also being a student.
Yes.
And also trying to have a social life.
Yes.
Okay. Besides yourself, do you know any like non-traditional students today? And if you do, how did they end up today, or like how did it impact where they are now?
And let's take what was your definition again?
Of like, just, not going the 4-year route, like taking, breaks, or like coming back as an older student, or, not, I feel like sometimes even going to a CC for 2 years and then transferring to a university, I feel like that could fit into a traditional student because you're still attending all 4 years, but it's not at the same college. But I can also see how that could also be a non-traditional student because you're not at the same college for all 4 years and experiencing all that. So now, like, that's kind of making me change my definition of a non-traditional student.
But then at the same time, I think when you're, I did start later. I started later. I didn't go right after high school. So.
Oh, okay. So you took like a year.
I took like 2 years off. I ended up moving to Florida, and I thought I was just gonna have a different life and maybe go to school out there. Decided Florida wasn't for me, so I came back and I started working, and then I just decided I needed to go back to school and I wanted to play basketball. So I ended up, the program offered a basketball opportunity for me, so I went to that school. But to answer your question, I do know actually someone who went into the military. I believe he went in for 6 or 7 years, and he ended up coming back to San Diego and playing basketball at Cal State San Marcos. It was surprising because he was older than everyone on the team, but he was able to pay for his education there, but also play basketball, which was his passion. But then they also used him as like a captain and a leader just because he had military experience. He had knowledge of real world, and it was actually just a good fit for him. But
he must have been really good.
Yeah, he was good.
To blend in with the
yeah, yes, definitely. And
yeah.
When you're 6'4",
oh wow,
yeah, you'll find a spot.
And I apologize. You are definitely a non-traditional student.
No problem.
Especially with the whole transferring and because you took like a 2-year break.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, what challenges do you see for non-traditional students today? And like, what would you see being easy for them? If that makes sense.
I think just changes, to be honest, changes to society, right? I think someone going back to school after taking some time off, I think it's just hard to get back in that setting. Just being comfortable with, just getting acclimated with your surroundings, I think is tough in its own. Some people may have the, being mature, you may have it easier, and it may be easier for you to get back into that. But I think what's easier now is the fact that there's more online programs where people can continue to work full time and also get their degrees and actually, get great jobs and have great careers after that. So we're seeing more and more online programs from, notable institutions, and more people are taking advantage. So I think that's the easier part now.
Okay. And then, do you predict there will be more and more non-traditional students to come, or do you think that it will decrease or stay the same?
Now, do you mean just enrolled in college, or enrolled in physically attending classes? Because I feel like there's going to be more students that are going to these online programs are going to boost even more, and they're going to provide more opportunity for non-traditional students to enroll in colleges, and I think that's where it's heading. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's where I feel it's heading. But if it's not heading, it's offering those non-traditional students the opportunity to take those courses without feeling like they're missing out, or and working with their schedules and their personal lives.
Okay. Yeah, John Duca said the same thing about the whole online thing. At first he said it stayed the same, but then with the online programs, he thinks that there probably will be more of an increase. Sorry, I'm trying to... It's awesome because, like, some of the, like, you knocked out some of my questions while talking about it, and other questions, that's like perfect.
I talk too much.
No, you're fine. Did I ask you, would you suggest going the non-traditional student way, or
yeah,
you said
yeah.
the traditional way? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What advice would you give to a non-traditional student? Sorry.
It's hard. I'm trying to look at what I would want someone to tell me, right?
It's never too late.
I mean, seriously, it's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late to go back to school, but also don't feel like you're out of your comfort zone. I mean, to each his own, right? Everyone's focused on themselves, and to better yourselves, I mean, you're going to have to go through this process, and whatever setbacks you had that put you in the situation really doesn't matter if you have the focus and you have the mentality of being a student, and then move forward with it, because you see it to this day where even people who are retired, they go back to school. I mean, they may have worked their jobs for 30, 40 years, and then they decide to go back to school and get their education. I mean, that's a non-traditional student, but...
Do you think more and more, like, that's becoming more of a trend, or people are starting to pick up on that? Or do you think that's something that people have always done, but there's just more, like, limelight to it? Like, there's more focus and visibility to it?
More visibility now?
Like, do you think that there's always been non-traditional students, always,
I think,
and the amount has always been around the same? But then, like, do you think that like it's been like that, or do you think it's like now becoming the new norm?
I think both. I think it's always been like that. I mean, we talk about the amount. I mean, we could talk about the amount of people that do that, but I think it's always been there. But now with so many distractions, so many opportunities elsewhere without going to college, I mean, even, you know, people wanting to become entrepreneurs, you know, that's just an example. So people aren't looking at college right after high school. You're not thinking about that. And I think now, like I said, with online and just different programs that are out there, I think now it's becoming the norm to be a non-traditional student. So I hope I answered.
No, you did perfect. Because I think that the non-traditional student identity is becoming the new norm. But like, and I'm gonna look up the statistics, but like, I mean, obviously there's always been non-traditional students, you know, because of the military and, you know, but then I feel like now there's been like an increasing trend of more and more people going that route, or maybe even taking a break after high school and then going to college a year later or something, instead of like that pressure of like, oh, you have to go to a four-year college right after high school. And so, and it's something that I feel like I've noticed on campus as well, because I don't know if you know, but I'm a pretty older student coming back. And so when I first came to UCSD on the college campus, it was predominantly, you know, young, Caucasian, a few Asians, but then now there's like more diversity on campus and a lot more older people on campus who I think might be TAs or professors, but then I see them sitting in my same class and then I'm like, oh my God, they're in my class.
Yes.
And so it's like, I never experienced that back when I was a freshman, but now that I'm coming back and noticing these changes, it's like, has this always been around and I just haven't noticed it before? Or is it something that's, you know, happening now? And so that's why.
That's happened. I mean, when I was at community college, everyone was around the same age, even older than me. And then as soon as I transferred to San Diego State, I can remember vividly, like just my first class, and it was an econ class. And I was sitting in that classroom, I think it was like 300 students. And which one? I mean, I was like I knew I was the oldest one in there. And there was no one I could see besides the professor that looks like they were, you know, even older than 30 or older than 25 at the moment. But like I said, I think it is becoming the new norm. And then you hear about, I mean, just socially, just friends going back to school. And I mean, even my mother just said this like last night that she plans on going back to school. And my mother never attended school at all. She went to cosmetology school, but that was it. And now that she's, you know, unable to work, she's thinking about going back to school. And we were just talking about this last night, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
nice. And I just, it kind of clicked in my head too, but like now I feel like definitely there's more opportunities with obviously online programs and other universities like Phoenix of Arizona and like whatnot, that you can finish your degree and have those people who couldn't finish back then or didn't have the opportunity to go back then, and now they can go back and do it now. So I feel like because of that, it's definitely an increasing trend and becoming the new norm.
yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, I think that concludes our interview. Thank you so much.
All right.
This was very helpful.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.